gathering with the welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Respected Mr. Das and Mr. Srivastav, Mr. Gupta, Neeraj. It's my honor and privilege to welcome all of you this morning on behalf of MATE. History has always said, as Mr. Jara started off with Chanakya, history has always attributed the intellectual creations to the owners as property to the owners who created it. Throughout history, society has always done that. As we have developed across the world, various countries have in different stages of development. If you were to look at it, a country, when it becomes developed, two things happen. One is that the average income of people goes up. The second is that manufacturing and services as a percentage of the GDP, that goes up significantly. Now, when manufacturing and services go up as a contribution to the GDP, what it means is that there is a higher amount of investment in research and development. And higher amount of investment and research and development through the private sector happens only when there is some guarantee that the amount of money that you're spending in and creating unique advantages for you as an organization will be there to give you much more returns than the amount that is invested in research and development. That, I think, is a key point that we need to keep in our mind. We, as a young nation, which is moving from a developing country or a developing economy to a developed economy, in my mind, we as a nation are moving more towards the knowledge economy. And when we're moving as a knowledge economy, right, the key thing that we have to remember are two things. One is that we have to help our citizens, our inventors, our creators, give them a sense of comfort that innovation and their creations will get protected. So that's the first aspect of knowledge economy. Within this framework, I think we do well because we are part of the global treaties, we are part of the global conventions, we respect all of them. As a result of which, I think we have made quite a bit of the frameworks and rules which are required to ensure that people's creations are protected. However, the biggest gap that we have is in terms of building awareness among people on the rules and frameworks that we have in protecting the intellectual properties. The purpose of this workshop is, the first fold is to take care of building this awareness. Today we are getting into this forum folks from different fields or all the stakeholders, the creators, the private law firms who can help us in terms of ensuring that the creation is not just protected for the individuals but also for the country in a global economy. Then we talk about the stakeholders within an organization, which is folks who look at the compliance. And of course, last but not the least, the most important, the law enforcement agencies in the government, which can help in terms of protecting and by laying the policies and implementing the policies. But as we look into the knowledge economy, there's other aspect of the knowledge economy, which is that the world is getting more digital. And when it gets more digital, it also means that it's a new way of working and new way of learning, which the younger generation in this country are able to adapt. But with this digital economy also comes across new things like cybersecurity and cyber threat. So how does one handle that? So when you look at the knowledge economy and say there's cybersecurity and there's intellectual property, how do you ensure that the laws and frameworks are made aware to people, the fundamentals are made aware to people, the practices are made aware to people who are the creators and the various stakeholders, to ensure that in a digital economy, they can protect their intellectual creations. At MATE, the objective of today's workshops through the day is to ensure that these two principles of IPR and the cybersecurity are taken care of. We have a plethora of experts in various sessions through the day, and I'm sure all of you will benefit with their expert knowledge in this during the course of the day. With those few words, I would like to welcome you for the session and encourage you to actively participate and leverage from all the knowledge which is available with the experts in the room. Thank you.
The welcome address. In fact, it is very important for all of us to see that we grow with the knowledge economy. And as I said in the beginning also, we have to work hard. There are a lot of things which we have not patented. Today, if you just see the Googles, just say if you don't know how to cook the rice, just Google it, it is patented somewhere. So we'll have to be very fast with the world. Now I request Shri P.K. Das, the Director, Software Technology Park of India, Bengaluru, to kindly deliver the keynote.
Thank you, Mr. Jairaj. I think after releasing of the book by Mr. Gupta and going through it, we don't have much to speak. It's all the content is with you. So it's becoming a little difficult now. It appears to be an excellent collection and with his views. So it will be very, very helpful to all of us. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. India as a country, I feel, is well positioned to protect IPs. We got into WTO 1995. We are already TRIPS compliant. What else to do? As a policymaker, decision maker, the government has done their job. But they also, we feel, have a role to duly implement, make it more and more effective, where our grievances lie. We feel the implementation mechanism of the rules and regulations which will be protecting the intellectual property is not in place. But is it in place in case of other properties, or so to say, rights and privileges? Do you feel very comfortable as far as law and order situations that you expect, criminal investigation processes that you expect, and also the judicial mechanism, the kind of speed and quality of judgment that you expect? We as Indians, mostly, majority of us are unhappy about all these things. But why is it so? Are the people meant to do their job not doing? Or we are too tolerant? In my view, the thing is a little different. It's the number which matters. So more and more cases of law and order, criminal incidents, or things like that, more and more it becomes difficult for any government machinery or so-called social machinery to handle it. And when there are so many other issues which concerns majority of the population in this country, how can the same machinery of police or the judiciary concentrate in handling our IP issues? Still there is a feeling these are secondary. It is a matter of concern of an organization or entity or an individual who is trying to make more money and is not being able to do. Is it so? Now, with this backdrop, I feel it is more important to create the conducive environment to put in place a much bigger pedestal which is required for any enforcement activity, protection activity to become successful. And that's where the need of relooking into our compliances with the ethics comes in place. IP protection is nothing different from being ethical. Usually in professional qualifications, most of us are through it. We are given to understand certain ethics that we need to maintain. And today that professional definition of professional has increased. It is not only the doctors, the lawyers, or the engineers who are professionals. It's a whole number of different professions. And they are also equally responsible to maintain the ethics of their profession. Even a company, when doing a business, that's a profession they carry forward. And a lot of ethics they have to maintain vis-a-vis other companies, as well as within the organization, amongst the people. So I would not go into the detailed scenario of IP protection and things like that, since the whole session will talk about that. I would start with drawing your attention to the ethical aspect of it. When I would say, because it's not something new that I have noted down, I had noted down these things on a different aspect, but it is equally relevant. So when I say engineering, please take into account, please understand that it is, what I am trying to mean is a professional career or a profession as such. So in engineering, why we study engineering ethics? Similarly, why we need to study professional ethics in any of the professions? Because we need to have the proficiency in recognizing moral problems. Many of us lack it. Skill in comprehending, clarifying, and assessing moral arguments from the other side. Ability to form comprehensive and consistent viewpoints based on relevant facts. Sensitivity to alternate viewpoints, precision in and familiarity with ethical terminologies, sensitive to difficulties and subtleness of involved in ethical disputes. Now, what is ethics? I mean, just revisiting, all of you know. It's a systematic area of inquiry with beliefs or attitudes and moral correctness. Now, systematic area of inquiry into moral values, methods of clarifying moral issues, means for resolving moral disputes, efforts to justify moral judgment. Discipline resulting from the said activities, and application to the moral values, issues, and decisions involved in engineering comprises what is known as engineering ethics. So is true for any other profession. Beliefs or attitudes as endorsed as proper by a specific group of individuals, means the similar professionals. Engineering ethics, in a sense, then can be understood as a code of ethics endorsed by one profession of engineering. Moral correctness, justified principles of obligation, rights, and ideas that ought to be endorsed. As applied to engineering, this would be the set of such principles as they are generally applied and endorsed by engineers. And these